Picture this. You're standing at the bottom of the Great Pyramid. You can almost hear the pharaohs whispering. But what did their voices really sound like? For hundreds of years nobody knew. The ancient Egyptians left us their writing, but their spoken words seemed lost forever. Like a ghost, the real sound of their language haunted history. We see their amazing buildings, we're impressed by their hieroglyphs, but the sound of their language was a secret. Without a time machine, how could we ever know how the ancient Egyptians talked? The answer, surprisingly, is hidden in the language they left behind. The Egyptian language, like the River Nile, flowed through time, always changing. It started with hieroglyphs, pictures and symbols that meant words and sounds. Over thousands of years it changed into different forms: hieratic, demotic, and finally, Coptic. Each step held clues to the sounds of the past. Coptic, the last form of ancient Egyptian, appeared around the year 300. It used the Greek alphabet, with a few extra letters for sounds Greek didn't have. Importantly, Coptic is still used in the Coptic Orthodox Church. This kept the ancient sounds of Egypt alive. Finding the Rosetta Stone in 1799 was a huge discovery. This stone, with the same words written in 3 different ways, hieroglyphs, demotic, and ancient Greek, gave us the key to understanding hieroglyphs. Finally, we could read ancient Egyptian writing. The Rosetta Stone was like a magic decoder ring. It let us understand what hieroglyphs meant, but it also did something else. It showed us how ancient Egyptian might have sounded. By comparing the Greek words with the Egyptian versions, language experts started to figure out how ancient Egyptian was spoken. The ancient Greeks and Romans left helpful clues about how ancient Egyptian sounded. They spent a lot of time with Egyptians and wrote down Egyptian words and names using their own alphabets. These written versions, though not perfect, gave hints about the sounds. Imagine trying to write down a word you've never heard, from a language you don't know. That's what Greek and Roman writers faced when trying to write down Egyptian words. But even these imperfect attempts, scattered throughout old texts, gave important information to language experts trying to rebuild how ancient Egyptian sounded. Coptic, the last form of ancient Egyptian, is like a bridge to the past. Even though it uses the Greek alphabet, it kept many sounds from its ancient Egyptian ancestors. This makes Coptic super important for figuring out how ancient Egyptian was pronounced. Think of Coptic as a time capsule, holding the echoes of ancient Egyptian sounds. By studying Coptic words and how they changed from older forms, language experts can track the journey of sounds through time, connecting the old pronunciations with newer ones. One big puzzle about ancient Egyptian is the sound of the letter R. Some experts think it was rolled, like in Spanish or Italian. Others think it sounded more like a J or L. The evidence is tricky. Coptic, for example, uses the same letter for both R and L, which might mean they were similar. But Greek and Roman writings sometimes use R and sometimes L for the same Egyptian word, making the puzzle even harder. Ancient Egyptian had sounds that are strange to English speakers. The K sound, written with a hieroglyph that looks like a loaf of bread, probably sounded like the chi in the German word Bach, or the J in the Spanish word Jota. The DJ sound was probably like the J in jump or the G in gem. These interesting sounds, discovered by careful study, give us a peek into the unusual sounds of ancient Egypt. We can't travel back in time to hear the ancient Egyptians speak, but we can get pretty close. Coptic chants, still sung in Coptic Orthodox churches, are a living connection to the sounds of the past. Also, language experts and fans of ancient Egypt have made amazing recordings of ancient Egyptian texts, using what they know about how it sounded. These recordings, while just guesses, let us hear the words of the pharaohs spoken out loud, bringing the past to life. Figuring out the sounds of ancient Egyptian is like putting together a broken pot, piece by piece. It shows how curious we are about the past and how much we want to connect with it. Even though we don't know everything, we're learning more about how ancient Egyptians spoke. With each new discovery, we get closer to hearing the whispers of the pharaohs, their voices brought back to life after thousands of years.